welcome back, everybody.
Welcome back to the Lost Beat 6 Show Beefer Book Club. We're recording this Saturday, July 17th at this point in time.
This is a very special episode. This is completely necessary. This is your filler show for Monday.
It's what is usually our supplemental weekend edition. It's now going to be our Monday. It's going to substitute as a Monday morning. Monday morning program.
We're not Monday Night Raw yet. We're still SmackDown.
yeah. The plan is once we get this into a rhythm and we kind of do like smart things like plan ahead or communicate ahead of time on my end about where things are going.
The planning for this is awesome. Usually it's just Steve. I get the you up text.
Yes.
Hey babe, you up?
Hey girl.
it's like 2 a.m. Fucks with a podcast right now.
Yeah. But I'm back where I'm usually at. You're in Portland at the moment.
Oh yeah, I'm visiting Portland, Oregon right now. It's very nice outside. It's about 115 where I live right now, so it's only like 80 degrees out here. So
that's nice.
It's like sweater weather. Yeah, but yeah, spending Portland's fucking. It's kind of scary up here.
Is it really? Is it still scary?
It's like to put this in perspective, I grew up around Portland. Like I grew up on the Oregon coast, and like my dad worked in Portland, so I spent a lot of time up there. Up here, I guess I'm here now, but yeah. So I always grew up with Portland as this a really nice city and it's a really nice place, and and then coming back to it, and I visited a couple of years ago, maybe 5 years ago, and then I came back this time, and it's like, it's like the most of the shops are all boarded up and nothing's replaced them yet, and like all the stuff that is up. This is like downtown Portland, so.
Yeah. But
like there's like every business that's still open is like they're missing windows, and you can tell the because so much stuff is just like abandoned right now. The homeless people are out just kind of throwing up their tent cities where all the empty buildings are, because it's like no one's there, no one's going there, so it's like no one's there to like go yell at them to get off their property. It's crazy, dude. I saw like we had like man, if I had $1 for every just like yelling out loud to himself angrily hobo I saw, it's a lot, man. Because I feel like I feel like it's like maybe 1 out of every 100 hobos you see is like the angry screaming on a corner guy, and like I feel like the percentage here is so much higher. Like I'm thinking it's like a 1 out of every 20 here.
Dear.
I mean, I'm not surprised. Portland, the conditions up here are a little bit harsh, so it's that just exposure to the elements is can really exacerbate anything going on with you mentally.
I mean, like when I hear Portland, I hear of like and last time I was up there was 2019 spring 2019.
Okay. Oh man, so right before everything like went to shit.
Yeah, about a year, like almost a year to the day before that, like almost a complete year before that. So there's the pandemic stuff, and then there's all the political stuff. But there's like Oregon's like an extreme place anyway, so it was far more extreme than I remember. Or like it's like extreme left and extreme right.
I was pretty far out. I forget. I forget like living here, and even Palm Springs is like. It's like old conservative gays. So like even it's like there's still like rich white people.
Right. Yeah.
Like even the vibe out in like Palm Springs is still kind of a it's got that like upper middle class boomer vibe to it. You know, it's just like you see a little more rainbow flags, but yeah, Portland is like super far out, far left. It's fucking crazy.
Yeah, it was a place where
kind of a relief. Like you
was...
can see, like it's like walking around Portland. It's like, oh yeah, this is why they sent the stormtroopers out here to like throw people in vans.
Yeah,
and stuff.
Yeah.
If there was a spot that would be like that would be like, you know, big leftist demonstrations, like Portland would like totally be.
Yeah.
It would totally be that.
So, I for the most part, when people are going like, "Oh, everything's up, Seattle's up in flames, Portland's up in flames," this is like, okay, well, the world's all up in flames, and like that was the big story about like around like election season 2020. It's like,
I guess your audio is probably better than my audio, but you cut out for a second.
Oh, yeah. Essentially, what I said was that Portland was the sort of main like what about so and so target of like the right, and then it was Seattle, these like these leftist havens that are up in flames because like Law and Order candidate couldn't, we need a Law and Order candidate get done. Like, you are you represent now. Like,
yeah, it's like you're in charge, man. It's like fucking. It's like you're the one. It's like the cops are out here fucking starting riots. And
you're sending federal agents of dubious credibility.
Yeah, we got it's like you're the one sending the fucking unmarked Gestapo out here to.
Yeah, Portland's always
make everyone way more.
Yeah, Portland's always been this way. You just sent in the extreme other side to make it like really bad. We just ignore
true.
Portland most of the time, just as much as we ignore flyover redneck people that are like libertarian
crazy. Oh yeah, yeah.
So it's just a matter of but you put them in together. It's like, oh, this is bad. It's like stirring the pot. You're getting this bad. It's like some like second grade science experiment with a volcano. That's like, I got this baking soda in this vinegar.
It's like when you show up and start doing the things that everyone is complaining about. It's like they're gonna be fucking pissed, man. Like, it's like, no shit. No shit's getting worse. But yeah, it's. I think it's just happening with cities everywhere because like LA is like that a lot right now too. Like Burbank is getting, it's kind of getting like degentrified, and it's like the same thing that's happening, where it's like it's just businesses go out and then nothing replaces them, or it's like you can't none of the cool like kind of boutique stores that you'd want in like a hip place like like a Portland or downtown Portland or like downtown Burbank, like stuff can't come in and like replace it except for like big fucking, big chains. And it's like chains have like a shit year too. Like they're not like opening anywhere or like buying anything.
Yeah.
So it's like you get this like crazy chain reaction of it's like, oh, it's like stores kind of like flicker out. And then apparently it's like a tax break too if you just like hold on to if you just hold on to an unleased or an unrented business. Like I think you get a bunch of tax breaks and stuff. So like I think it's probably better for all these real estate companies just like to be sitting on like nothing through like the whole pandemic because it'll save them money in the long run.
Yeah.
But it's weird. And then, it's like, it's abandoned. And then, homeless people can move in because like no one's like, there's like no one's there. And Burbank's got a lot of homeless people. Like I grew up there. So like watching usually it's like the cops they're pretty anal about like throwing people out and like driving troublemakers back down to LA and just dumping them wherever, out in Glendale.
Have you checked out Powell Books yet?
Oh, absolutely. It was like my number one stop. I spent like $200.
Fuck yeah. Nice. What'd you get?
Oh boy. So a lot of like occult stuff because like they have like a really bitchin' like there's like occult and weird spirituality stuff. Like I picked up what's it the it's like the first book that this anthropologist wrote about how like the Dogon people know about the like Sirius twin star system, even though you can't see Sirius's twin from Earth, and like the Dogon people are like, yeah, like a dude came from space and like taught us that there's like another star there. And so it's just this really weird, like oh, their mythology is like very strangely and explicitly kind of like giving this like weird ancient aliens thing. So it's like a book written in the 70s. So it's like the first one to like kind of bring up that weird. Well, not specifically ancient aliens, but like the stuff about Sirius and like dog star aliens that like Robert Anton Wilson writes about it a lot and stuff. And I think like Timothy Leary was like super into like aliens from Sirius.
All right.
That's one of the things I got. I picked up some like stuff on the tarot. I picked up some Robert Thurman. He's like, he writes about it's Uma Thurman's dad. He's like a Buddhist scholar.
Oh, nice.
He like writes all this crazy stuff. Yeah, his translation of the Tibetan Book of the Dead is like my favorite. Like that one, that really freaked me out when I like read it the first time.
Nice.
Anyway, yeah, I know the whole last podcast was an extended book review, so I'm gonna stop there. What have you been checking out, Steve?
All right. Well, beginning of the week, I finished a great courses on Franz Liszt.
Oh, nice.
And then immediately watched Lisztomania afterwards.
Oh, dude, yeah. So you got the polar opposite.
And I'm just like, and can we talk about Ken Russell for a minute?
Yeah.
Because that guy is like, his movies aren't like. This will come back in a little bit because like his movies like aren't like. They're not like great.
Yeah.
Like the act, like he's always using musical. He's using musical people. Like I've seen Salome, his version of Salome with Oliver. What was the Oscar Wilde?
Yeah.
He did a long time ago. He did a movie on Tchaikovsky.
Oh, interesting.
Like The Music Lovers, I think it was called. It was like.
It's probably not as crazy as like Lisztomania. Right?
Lisztomania might be the craziest, although Salome was like pretty off the wall.
I mean, Salome's like, nuts.
Yeah,
there's a really cool. I should send you the video. There's a really good video on YouTube of just like the old silent movie version of Salome.
Oh my gosh!
It's just set to like Lustmore like power electronic music. This is like this just like epic fucking like drone shit. It's so scary. It's super cool. I'll send you a link to it.
Okay. Well, I was watching Lisztomania because I'd seen clips of it. Like Kyle would show me clips of it. Like, oh, like, hey, this is what Wagner looked like, and it's like Hitler, sort of stuff. It's like, okay, we get it. Wagner's Hitler. Blah, blah, blah. But I was watching it again. I'm like, and just this weird like the way they use and like it's sort of like the way Roger Daltrey is Franz Liszt is kind of interesting because Roger Daltrey's like a working class like shepherd's bush geezer as he'd put it, and of course like so he's got this like Cockney accent with like Franz Liszt, who's obviously the whole idea about Franz Liszt was that he was like a middle working like artisan class that reached high standards from his playing, so he was the ideal. Not rags to riches story, but essentially just like his status was not one that was just of birth, So
like his talent, fucking like he was like talented enough to like carry himself.
Exactly, and but it's the amount of like just crazy like the imagination that goes into like a Ken Russell movie is so I don't know if it was like he took like the Clockwork Orange concept and drove it to 11 or whatever, but like there's the highly stylized like he goes to see Princess Caroline, who's like a Ukrainian princess. She's Russian in this movie, and becomes his second main lover, or like the second like main woman in his life. and of course, like, he goes, they're in this Russian cathedral, and like you can see, like, it's just like there's a changing room where there's like pictures of like Elvis in Orthodox icons, and like Pete Townsend's on there. I'm like, hey, look at that.
Oh,
This is post
yeah.
this is post Tommy too, so he did Tommy before this apparently. So
Okay, I was gonna ask you. I was like, which one did he do first? I was like,
Tommy.
I think it must. I was like, it must have been Tommy. Yeah.
Yeah. But there's like the spectacle and the visual style that goes into it. Like, someone had to put a set piece together just to put this. That's got that like MGM attitude of like grandeur, or like the Orthodox. Yeah, just giant like stylized, cocks everywhere, and like the going all over the place and stuff. I'm just like, who put this together? Like,
yeah, for anyone who's gonna listen to this later, like, just stop right now and Google, just fucking look at a fucking video of Lisztomania, like, and that's Franz Liszt, like the composer. So
yeah,
but even if you spell it wrong, you're gonna get the right thing. Like, it's insane. Like, it's wonderful to behold.
Yeah, I mean, like, and it was interesting how they did. I was interesting how they did. Like, Wagner's almost the main character of the story.
Yeah.
he's the one with the arc. But there's like that whole like Faustian sell your soul element to those things. There's a giant. The part of it's also like that sexual energy in regards to like a rock star. That's the whole idea that Ken was trying to do. But it's just in terms of like what a, the style. It's such a style over substance film. It's one of the great.
It's like a Ralph Bakshi movie.
Yeah.
Where it's like they gave the guy with like really good like creative ideas. It's like they gave the creative guy like the writing job too.
Yeah. Like, if an art director,
it's like someone else.
Yeah. It's like movies made by art directors.
Yeah, exactly.
Terry Gilliam would fit in there too,
Yeah, it's like a Terry Gilliam movie where it's like, oh, this is like,
yeah,
there's more. But yeah. Did you ever see, like, Wizards kind of sucks, but it's like the art for it is like fucking crazy because it's all just like, it's like underground comic, 80 women and fucking cool robots and
what
shit.
What movie was this?
So, what's that?
What was the movie? I missed that.
Oh, Wizards, the Ralph Bakshi one. Yeah,
okay.
I've tried to watch it so many times, and it's just so bad. Like, all the writing and stuff is like, oh my god. Because I feel like it's like when you get to Cool World, it's such a, people act like that was such a surprise. Like, oh my god, he made this terrible movie. And it's like you watch Cool World, and it's like yeah, this movie's like extra bad even by Ralph Bakshi standards. But I mean,
right.
like, it's not like his other stuff is exactly like gold star material.
Yeah. And I'm
surprised it didn't happen sooner.
Yeah. And I think Ken Russell, for years, I felt like I almost wondered. I think he's straight, but I always wondered if he had if there was like a gay element to it, because there's a lot of elements of just like, effeminate composers and a lot of like in extreme like phallus symbols everywhere in his movies. Where I'm just like,
oh yeah, totally.
I wonder, but there's also like. But there's like butts, there's boobs, there's like everything else in those films too. So it's just it's very European oriented to that kind of like, it's like normalization of sexual.
They're desensitized to cock and balls, so it's like they're it's like cock and balls is just like funny to them, and stuff like, oh my god. It's like Americans are still in like the horror phase of cock and balls.
Right.
Yeah, and then like Europe is in the acceptance. Like,
the closest we get is like the Righteous Gemstones in the comedy where
yeah,
which is another great show out there. So that was one of the big first things I had to tackle. Because I was like, that I finally saw that movie, and I know you'd be into that. I think you've seen it. You've seen it, so it's.
I've seen like most of it via YouTube clips. I have not sat down and watched the whole thing like start to finish.
Yeah.
Like, I watched a bunch. Like, I think Kyle, our homie Kyle Duncan, showed me a bunch of it when we were in school together.
Oh, I will say the other thing about that movie is it tends to like the history is sort of a stream of consciousness element. Where it's like Ringo's the Pope, and he starts taking holy orders, and it's like, oh yeah, lots happened since you've like, it's been 2 seconds, 2 minutes, like a minute's happened, like all of a sudden, like they don't tell you how many years later. It's like
they're taking like the David Cronenberg naked lunch approach to like the biography.
Okay, yeah, right.
Where it's basically just completely like psychotic, crazy shit, but that kind of it has like interjections of reality into it, you know.
Yeah.
Like it's like there's biographical elements, but it's like not, you know, it's not really like a straight, you know, it's not really a straight biography.
So onto that, I'm gonna switch gears. I just saw, speaking of style over substance, I just saw the new Space Jam last night.
Oh shit! Yeah, so tell me about it.
Oh, first off, this is what happened, and I think anybody who knows me or listens to the show know exactly where I was. I went to dinner with some friends, and they go, "Hey, we want to go see this movie. We want to go see Pig," which is the new it's a Nicolas Cage like indie thriller about like a chef, a down on his luck chef that's been reduced to apparently like seeking out black truffles with his pig, you know, and then like in a John.
All you had to say was Nick Cage. Like, I'm gonna watch this movie now. I will literally watch anything with him in it.
Okay, and apparently in like John Wick fashion, someone either kills the pig, and it's like out for revenge sort of thing. So I'm just like, that's the synopsis to me. Apparently, that's what I've been told. I had not seen the ad for it, but I'm like, this is interesting. This is an interesting movie. I'm down to see it. And then we all kind of convene, and two of our friends they wanted to switch gears. Like, hey, how about we go see Space Jam?
Holy shit!
In the theater
right after it, or like
no, instead of they switched.
Switched from Pig. Let's go see a good movie. Let's go see fucking Space Jam.
Let's go see Space Jam, and we want to go see him with the D box seats, which is basically like those motion simulator seats. So they do the
oh yeah, those
basically
are crazy.
Like, so the Star Tours seats essentially. And I'm like, all right, cool. Like, we're all going to pregame it. We're all going to be a little bit on the edge there. So,
I mean, I feel like, you know, for like a more party atmosphere, Space Jam is appropriate.
Yeah. And poor Eric got to the restaurant last, and we and the tickets were already bought. So he really was like, okay, I'm going to go here. We're going to go see this movie. Cool. All right, cool. And then, like, all of a sudden, nope, we're watching this movie that you didn't want to see, and you were never going to pay money to see. We didn't, like, our friend covered it for us, so it's like I can never say I actually paid money to see this when I could have saw this like at home. My oh my, you remember that Red Letter? I just reference the Red Letter Media guys constantly, but you know that they kind of broke out with their big Jack and Jill episode.
Oh yeah.
Where it's like you're not watching. This is the first time ever where you weren't watching a movie. You were watching a 90-minute plus advertisement for something.
Yeah.
You know, a bunch of different things. This was like the Warner Brothers. This was not Sony. This was the Warner Brothers version of an ad, of a 2-hour ad.
Holy shit!
For Warner Brothers and Nike.
I heard there was a Rick and Morty. I heard there was a Rick and Morty cameo. Was that true?
That is true. And I'm like, it's funny. And I'm like, oh, okay. But the thing is, it's all so the synopsis is basically like Warner Brothers is reaching out to LeBron James to be in some sort of, I forgot what they want him to do. It's not really important. Anyway, the point is he says no, and the algorithm, who's played by Don Cheadle, gets mad and sucks him in and kidnaps him because he's pissed off. And kidnaps his son too at the same time. So like, he's got to play this basketball game to get out of it. That's the stakes. But meanwhile, he's in the entire Warner, like this, to certain terms of meta elements to things. He's in the server of the Warner Brothers, like the entire like server. They call it the serververse. It's like and it's like it's got this sort of space element of like, oh, you're on Looney Tunes planet. There's Casablanca planet. There's Game of Thrones planet. There's Harry Potter. So like,
what the fuck is that? Like that's man. Like that's not the plot of like the original Space Jam, right? Like it's like they're actually like aliens and shit that like show up. Like they're not doing this like Tron thing.
No, the Space Jam, the original Space Jam is that these strangers from Moron Mountain, like these these the aliens have a theme park, and it's not fun. It's kind of like it's sort of a torture. It's kind of like a hellhole essentially, but it's like Danny the gangster sort of Danny DeVito character basically says, "Go get me NBA players. Oh, give me the Looney Tunes. I want the Looney Tunes."
Okay.
And the Looney Tunes come up and say, hey, why don't we, they kind of like, they're not that, the aliens are small, they're not that smart, and they know they're short, so they go, hey, why don't we, and so Bugs and Daffy are like, why don't we challenge them to a basketball game?
My God.
It's for an arbitrary rule. They could just capture them and take them away.
Of Space Jam? I had no idea.
Space Jam is not like, it's not a movie franchise. It's a strange franchise because they've never been good movies. But
we've got Shut Up and Jam Gaiden, the unofficial JRPG sequel to Space Jam.
Oh,
do you know about that?
No.
Oh my God.
Oh dear. But like, anyway, the point of the original one was like they recruit Michael Jordan to help them win this game because the Monstars stole all the talent from the other NBA players. So they're like, they all of a sudden it's actually a challenge. This game was like, his son, like LeBron's fictitious son, is really good at creating video games at like 12 years old, or with like a scanner like that doesn't exist. Of course, like the thing is like you can suspend disbelief because you're dealing with like Looney Tunes. So like the idea of you have reality and Looney Tunes is different. But like I'm not gonna get on that case for a moment. But like there's a really it's one of those things where you're being scammed into a movie. Where like there's a father-son plot that like is not really a problem because like LeBron is slightly interested in his son's video game stuff anyway. Yeah, even though he wants him to go to basketball camp, but the son wants to go to E3 gamer camp.
So that's the they have the script treatment guy come in and just be like, okay, here's my
it's an algorithm. It's an algorithm script. I swear to God, like no human. Apparently, 6 humans wrote this, but it's really more of just like we need this, we need that, we need this, and we need a little bit of that.
At that point, it's just like a movie made by Ouija board. Like
yeah,
you just got like they're just all holding the planchette and just like sliding it over just like father can't relate to his son story. It's like all right.
We were all convinced Mark M wrote the script somehow where like there's a point, there is a speech. Okay, I'm going to compare this to an indie movie made by a big like Jon Favreau indie movie, Chef, which is one of my favorites, and that's why I'm biased, but like that movie has a bunch of big stars in it, but they're all playing cameo roles for like SAG minimum rates or whatever. But there's a scene, and that's another father-son story as well, right? And there's a scene where they're cleaning up this really beat to shit like food truck that they're gonna take back to California with. They're in Miami, so they're gonna make Cuban sandwiches.
Uh-huh.
And anyway, the point is, it's a rancid. There's rancid lowboy with like something like that's been it's like gelatinous rotten shit that's been growing there for years. And the kid's like, fuck this, I'm not gonna clean it. I'm because he's like 9 or 10. He's literally like he's a Zoomer at that point in time. He's like your typical Zoomer on Twitter.
Fucking work. Us millennials have had 2 jobs since we were.
It just happens to be the age he was. It's not really anything indicative of him as a personality, but that's how old he was, and he's just a kid. There's a scene where he's like, there's like that moment in a movie where the kid just says, like, no, and he runs away, or he just runs off. And you're waiting for like that moment where like Jon Favreau goes, "I know I haven't been the greatest dad," like that.
Yeah.
I know I haven't been the greatest dad.
Yeah,
so like I'm trying really hard, son.
Yeah.
But Jon Favreau walks in there. He goes, "Yeah, I cleaned up the rest of it. You did a great job. I'm sorry I was a jerk back there." Like undercuts that entire cliched speech. And then what do we get in What do we get in Space Jam to like turn the tide of the film? A cliched speech to turn his son back, because there's a point where it was like a father-son game.
I haven't been the greatest Space Jam to you, son.
But the biggest thing is you're completely distracted because they bring this Chire like game into like the Warner Brothers universe, and they go recruit people like Seven Samurai style in a montage, and where they're going to like Casablanca land. And it's like Yosemite Sam is playing Sam, like, "Play it again, Sam." And it's Yosemite Sam, like, oh, I literally said no. I said no in the theater, like, no, not this movie, no.
Yeah, it's like, who the fuck is? It's like no one in the fucking audience is gonna laugh at this.
Like the audible pain, and I think part of this is like, oh, LeBron James, big guy, big star. Nike, big brand. Of course, you have to have Nike with LeBron James because he has that $1 billion like lifetime deal.
Yeah.
So when he crashes to Looney Tune Land in like the Acme sort of Wile E. Coyote logic, like literal like crashes into the earth and leaves a giant ditch, like giant hole in the it's a swoosh that it forms when it happens.
Oh, that's cursed. That's like
I'm just like, oh boy.
That's like getting into like like Ready Player One territory.
Yeah, it was very close to that too. There's an element to that. Like you felt that as well. But like the entire crowd is full of like White Walkers, knights, Harry Potter wizards.
Oh God,
Batman, Superman, King Kong is there for some reason. Now is King Kong Universal?
Yeah. What the fuck? Yeah. I wonder if they're just they're just like leaning on like an old copyright where they're like, maybe. Oh, this is like
or they're trading off because Universal has the Harry Potter land, which they don't own. Warner does, so maybe it's a trade-off. I mean, they're literally neighbors in Burbank. You know this.
Yeah, they're basically attached to each other. Like they're on the same hill.
They're separated by a road, I think, that goes in between.
It's like you can stand at Universal and like look down into Warner Brothers.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm just like, that's an interesting but same thing with like God, like the there's two laughs that I got out of this, and do not give a shit about spoilers. This is a corporate. We talk about corporate products and stuff like that, like I think like LeBron's responded to the like haters gonna hate my movie. I'm like, dude, you didn't make a movie. You made a giant ass commercial for yourself. Like for Nike, for Warner Brothers, it's a giant commercial.
Absolutely, yeah.
Like Michael Jordan didn't even steep that hard into like hard-nosed into like what makes movies these days. Like, they talked about Big Macs. That's it.
Every fight, yeah.
Like I'll have to rewatch. It makes me need to. I think I want to rewatch the first Space Jam to see how.
What if you rewatch it and it's just like, oh my God, I'm sure the product placement is like. I'm sure you're gonna get like Bugs Bunny drinking Cokes. Did they get that in Space Jam 2? Do we get like just like beautifully rendered animated CG Cokes getting fucking like Daffy Duck's just rubbing it into his fur?
No, it was just a martini, but they didn't tell you what it was made out of.
Oh, okay.
There's two jokes that I like. One's a reference joke, and one's an actual joke. The reference joke is when they go to Mad Max World.
Oh my God.
So they're like, all of a sudden they're doing the Fury, like, what apparently the subplot of this is that all the Looney Tunes, they go, like, the algorithm comes to Looney Tune Land. For some reason he hates them. I think he just devalues the Looney Tunes and he doesn't really care about, like, the IP in a meta way. It's really true. Like, Warner Brothers is not really paying attention to the Looney Tunes IP. and maybe that's just like a meta commentary on that. So anyway, they all decide to break. They all kind of break up like the Muppets, in like the Muppet movie, and they all go their separate ways. They're all doing different things, and so they go to different planets, go explore the serververse of like the Warner IP.
That just makes me want to like watch like a Duck Dodgers movie. Like they should just fucking do that because that's awesome.
and anyway, so like Wile E. Coyote's hanging out with like the Mad Max, the Fury Road guys, and so they're like they're about to do all this crazy shit, and like he has, obviously he doesn't talk, so he's always doing the kind of sign telling you that's what he's saying. Yeah. And so he's like doing a sign and he says, "Witness me." And I'm just like, that was probably the big.
Okay, that's fucking awesome. That's kind of incredible. Okay, I might actually just watch this movie just for that.
That is worth it. That is worth it. And it's on HBO Max, so you can just not it's not too hard to find.
Yeah. You know what? Probably, I'll have to double feature Space Jam and Space Jam 2 because that's one of those weird things I have. I missed that nostalgia hype. I wasn't a sports kid at all.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I feel like I was like super into Looney Tunes. Are there people who are like super into Looney Tunes? Like,
it's really not as. I mean, even like, I would say, when it comes to like heightened like products that like cartoons and characters that we kind of like rehash, I think the most beloved and the most like protected to a certain extent would be the Muppets.
Yeah. And it's got to be followed closely by the Looney Tunes, right? Like I feel like Looney Tunes are. I feel like they're getting close to being done to death.
Yeah.
Like the Flintstones, where it's like the Flintstones.
Yeah, they were there too. They were there in the background.
Yeah. Oh my God.
There was fucking Droogs in the background. The Clockwork Orange Droogs.
What the fuck?
I swear to God, man. So I'm like, watch this, and I'm like, this is the problem is you're watching this like weirdly colorful like mess of a basketball game. It's like it's actually kind of distracting. It's like flashing. It's like the equivalent of like the flashing lights, like shit. Like, I don't know. Like, if you want to see a movie, it's like want to see a moving picture and sound with flashing colors in your face. This is Space Jam, the movie. But in between, like, because like no one really gives a shit about the basketball game. It's a silly thing.
Yeah.
Like the game itself. But you're watching for the jokes. You're watching for the humor. We're watching for or whatever you're watching it for.
Yeah.
But you could watch in the background, you could see like, oh, there's like characters from like Mulholland Drive, and and there's like the Witch King from Game of Thrones. Yeah, the White Walkers, and the Witch King is like standing right behind Don Cheadle, like, and then you can see like in the back, I'm seeing the fucking Droogs that like from A Clockwork Orange, where they're in the bowler caps and the white jumpsuits and the suspenders.
That's so
I'm
weird.
like, this is so.
It's all the Stanley Kubrick movies there.
I thought that was MGM.
They got an orgy going on.
And there was also, I think, I have to check, because I have to figure out, did Warner buy out MGM IP?
Oh, maybe, yeah.
Because there was Wizard of Oz stuff, and there was... that
would probably explain...
And the Kubrick stuff.
I keep thinking that would explain King Kong, but I don't know.
Who knows, man? Like, I'm sure they probably... it's not Disney IP, so they didn't have to pay that much for it, so... You know what I mean? So it was just hang on. It's just like that movie it was a clusterfuck of an advertisement, because I was just feeling like I was being sold that Warner has IP of value that you should check out on HBO and other places.
I think the difference too is like, I feel like at when the time that Space Jam was made, that like sports entertainment was kind of like a big thing. Like that was like, that's probably like peak Attitude Era WWE. So
it was also it's like, it was also the rise of sports and globalization of at least basketball and the corporate elements to that.
Well, I think it's like, so I think at the time Space Jam was made, it was like, they were kind of like a lot of those athletes, especially with basketball. I feel like they were kind of competing with with like pro wrestling, basically, to sort of like market the players as like almost characters, because it's like, you got like Shaquille O'Neal and like everything, and you got Space Jam, like Michael Jordan, and it's like, you kind of got these like
It's the one
these,
sport
like,
where you can see their
athletes.
face. Yeah,
Yep.
baseball was in a bad period because of the strike.
Oh yeah.
Football is a team league oriented sport because you see the shield, you see the helmets, you don't see anybody's faces. Basketball is one of the few sports where individual like accomplishments and facial and human size recognition by the sheer like
body
build.
Yeah, by its very nature, it's like it's already very
like, you like so. Yeah,
it's Michael, like turn it into like exaggeration and stuff.
Yeah, I think I saw I think he's still in the league. DeAndre Jordan, who is the center. And the center is the tallest, like biggest player. Mm-hmm. He was a center for the Clippers at one point. I saw him walk out of a Santa Monica. One of those like diners. 50s diners. It's not Mel's, but it's the other one. I can't remember it.
Not Johnny Rockets like that.
No. It's a nicer one. It's one of those nicer like Mel's styled where it's like, oh, we still have those healthy smoothies with your patty melt. You know, like we'll do a kale shake with your patty melt. But I saw him walk out of the building. I'm like, that's DeAndre Jordan. And you could tell who he was because he's fucking huge.
Oh, yeah.
Like, these people are tall. And, you know, like, so anyway, I'm considered a big person, but I'm 6'2". I'm the height of a point guard. In the NBA, which is the shortest person. Anyway, so, like, those are just name recognition. But the way LeBron did it was so, I'm not sure if it's LeBron's fault, to be fair. Like, but I mean, like that whole element to that movie was so soulless. Yeah, I mean, like not that it had to be.
He probably signed a fucking contract to be in Space Jam 2, like back when the first one came out, and probably just didn't remember. You know,
he was 12.
Like, hey man, we got you for our fucking movie. And he's just like, whatever. I'm getting that money, dude. Like, he's like, I don't do anything nearly as hard as just like actually playing basketball for this movie. So whatever.
Well, like a good like third of the movie, and maybe even like half of the movie, he's a cartoon. So he's not even like having to like be.
Oh my God, that's crazy.
so I'm going to say about a third of the movie. He's like for the entire second act of the movie, he's a cartoon.
Okay,
so
all right.
Like
it's like reverse Cool World, where it's like all the it's like all the cool cartoon stuff actually happens at the end instead of Cool World, where it's like the first act is like really cool and animated, and then it's like they just spend the last hour of the movie in like Las Vegas soundstage.
Yeah, it was like a laughably. It was like just like it's a shit movie, man. Like I can't. It's not. Like, if you can call it a movie, it's not a movie. It's literally a giant advertisement by Nike, Warner Brothers, and or Turner, I guess. Whoever. I think a Warner. Time Warner.
Dude, they're probably all in on it, man. There's probably like so much just fucking. And they're coming money on this fucking movie, and just. It's like the opposite of like a.
It's gonna make a lot of money. It's just a shit movie. It's all.
Do you remember the show Max Headroom? Like, you ever see the old like cyberpunk show?
No.
Anyway, there's like this episode where it's basically this like cyberpunk detective TV show, and there's this episode where they're like investigating like basically like TV or different advertising companies have started making like subliminal like advertisement messages that like flicker so fast that they just like give you a fucking seizure and like kill you like when you see them. So it's like this, you know, the first episode's like them like investigating this. It's kind of got like a Black Mirror sort of thing to it, you know, where like every episode is just like some kind of like weird cyber crime.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like the opposite of that is happening now. It's like we're getting like instead of just like blip for it to like blow your fucking head up, it's just like punishment walls of like of just like, it's like how little of an excuse do we need to like have this movie just be full of just like every every corporation and logo, and it's like crossover event. It's like I think Marvel's partially responsible for this because like everyone who owns like any kind of like barely related franchises are just like, yeah, how do we turn this into Marvel? Like surely surely our cinematic universe will be the next one. And it's like there's just all these like fucking like
it made me want to like it made me want to watch Casablanca. Honestly, like this is like I want to watch the movies that there are
people in it. Like
I'd never seen The Matrix, but like okay, I'll watch The Matrix. Like because that was a deal too. It was like an excuse to like rehash. You remember like Matrix gimmicks were like a thing in the early 2000s.
Oh yeah. Like
they brought it back because you know the first Space Jam missed the boat, or the first like was too early for it, so. They brought it back 25 years later. So, by the way, the last thing I will say, the only joke in the movie, and I'm there probably was other jokes, but they're more like references and quips and like, and like real time like meta jokes about LeBron's legacy and stuff like that.
Yeah, all these 10-year-old kids are gonna care so much about like LeBron James history and like fucking 80s movie like R-rated action.
And Humphrey Bogart.
Yeah, and fucking movies from the black and white movies from the 50s.
Oh man,
kids love that shit.
Anyway, there was a joke where it's halftime and like they're in the locker room and they're like, we need something big, it's just like in the first Space Jam movie where it's like we need a big pick me up, and like of course they make up like water, like it was just like. Like they rewrite water in a special sports drink and stuff. And what happens was they go, hey, and so Sylvester the cat says like, I found Michael Jordan. And it's just like all of a sudden you hear like the famous like Alan Parsons project that song that always opens like the Chicago Bulls like games. Anyway, and you see the silhouette, and of course, I already knew the joke. I hadn't seen it. It was like it's not gonna be Michael Jordan. It's gonna be Michael B. Jordan because and out walks Michael B. Jordan. I'm like, I knew this. It's like I'm not. I can write these jokes. I can write jokes these guys already did. Like I can be a Hollywood writer now. Because this is like shit that like what if we got? I'm just thinking that like the writers are like. Oh, what if they actually said? Because the thing is, they don't really reference the first movie all that much. And I was arguing with this earlier. It's like, is it a sequel? Is it this? Well, technically, it's a sequel because it's after the first one. It's like,
it's a soft reboot.
It's probably a soft reboot. And the thing is, like, they reference only the tunes reference the first movie. Oh, LeBron never does. He not once mentions like Michael Jordan in terms of like.
Yeah, because once you meet the Looney Tunes, they mind wipe you like you're in the Kids Next Door. Or like the Men in Black. It's like as soon as you meet them, they're like, "All right, hit him," and they flash you.
So it was a funny joke where they go, like Daffy Duck does like a trade Sylvester like joke, which I thought was pretty funny. But that's a great little joke because like, yeah, they probably brought Michael B. Jordan. That'd be funny to bring it in because his name's Michael Jordan, just like Michael Jordan. And of course the thing is like there's like this sort of in the sports world there's this sort of weird rift right now. It's a quasi rivalry that most sports talk people are putting together, and even they're starting to do. What happens is like for years Michael Jordan since he's retired 3 times. This is his second retirement, which is the last with the Bulls, in which he'd finished his 6th championship and he went 6-0 in the finals. That doesn't really account for the times he didn't even make the finals, but that's another. But like he's 6-0, perfect finals record. Also completely dominant. Like no way, like he was losing these games, in the 90s. And basically, everybody's like, "That's the greatest of all time," and everybody kind of knew it at the time. Like it was aware in the 90s that this is the best player to ever be. And of course, then the thing is that the NBA history is not that old, so you can kind of make that like, and the game had evolved for each decade. The game evolved in a different way. So that's that point. There's like, this is the best player ever. You could some other player has scored more points. some other player had more championships, like a Bill Russell in the '60s, but there was like 12 teams, and like he was taller than everybody else. Like, and he just like the Celtics,
like the people who were just like setting like Babe Ruth records, or it's just like he was just the first guy. So
right, just an outlier a giant among like men, like so, or a god among men, so. When you get, and so around the time, and like LeBron isn't the only person, like Kobe had a little bit of a sort of an emulation period, and he had about 5 titles by the end of his career, and LeBron had this sort of situation where he'd keep making the finals, but he would lose, or he'd like he ran into buzzsaw teams, and he ended, so at this point he's won 4 titles, and lost 4. Oh, no, he's 3-6. He's 4-6. I think it's 3 and he was 3-6. He's now 4-6. He was in the finals every single year up until like 2019. So he was like, it was like whoever, it didn't matter the team he was on, he was in the finals. So that was like how dominant he was as a player. But it's like you didn't win them. So, but there's that point in 2016 where he beat the Cavs. He was on the Cavs. He beat the Warriors when he was down, and they were down 3-1 and came back to win the whole thing. And that Warriors team had the best record in the regular season, like by any team ever. Like,
shit!
So like
he's deserving of the
So he says
of being Space Jam immortalized by Space
Well, what
Jam.
happens is like in a year or so after that, he said this in a podcast. I think it was in a podcast or an interview. That's when I knew I was the greatest of all time. I'm the greatest of all time. And that's fine. I have no problem with people saying they're the best at anything, because I'm like, okay, that's you have to have a lot of hubris and confidence to say it in the first place, and if you could prove it, go for it. I'm down with that. That's my Hemingway side of things. Declare yourself also the best, unless you want to fight for it.
Fair warning, my cell phone is starting to run low on battery, so if I just disappear and I die, I guess that'll be it, and then you'll hear
I'll wrap this up essentially. So Michael Jordan puts together his Last Dance documentary, which kind of reinstates him as the greatest of all time, or in the narrative anyway. And then the Space Jam thing kind of it's his attempt to switch it back. Maybe, I don't know. The point is, like, there's a little bit of like not this is like mildest of animosity towards like who's the best of all time, like who, and it's like who cares, but like
yes.
So anyway, that's enough basketball talk for you. I got 2 more things, unless you got something.
Let's see. I've been playing a lot of Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. I finally got that. I'm like years late on this, but that's a great ass game. I got slut shamed the hardest I've ever fucking been in my life. I was telling my fiance, I was like, hey, look, the Zoras, they're kind of hot, right? Are you familiar with Breath or with like Zelda? No, all the creatures, like the Zoras are like the fish people, right?
Okay.
And I was like, yeah, the fish girls, they're kind of cute, right? And then my fiance is just like, yeah, no, they're fucking horrible. They're like fish monsters. Like, what the hell is wrong with you? I was like, no, look, like they kind of like, it's like they got like the cute like snaggle teeth, and you're just a sucker kind of for like the fun colors, and it's and then she fucking pulls up a picture of from the Scooby-Doo the aliens one, where they're like the Martians were like the hippie girl and her dog like turn into the aliens at the end. She pulls up a fucking picture of that like alien dog and like holds it up like next to the Zoras, and then she's like, they look exactly the same.
My goodness.
I'm like, fuck off. I'm like, anyway,
you're a sucker for the sirens, I guess.
Yeah, I guess they call that being a scaly. It's like not a furry. You're not a furry. It's like you like the lizards. No, man, I'm just saying. It's like a Sally Acorn syndrome, like from like the Sonic Saturday morning cartoon.
Okay.
Where it's like she's got like it's like she's basically this like hot squirrel, and like all these like furries are just like, yeah, that's when I knew I was like a huge fucking furry. Was like looking at this hot squirrel on the Sonic thing. But I think specifically the Sally Acorn effect is like she wears like a jacket and then like nothing else, but she's still like tit shaped, you know, like they still gave her like TNA. So it's like your brain sees it and you go like, oh, she's wearing a shirt, but she's not wearing any other clothes. So it like triggers this like animalistic, like fucking, you know, it triggers this like erogenous like visual thing where it's like this character is coded like they're naked, but it's just like a kid's show. So I think that's where the confusion is. But anyway, that's my theory about eroticism in Legend of Zelda. So there's that.
Okay, nice.
What else have I been fucking with? Mostly gaming. Mostly reading. But go ahead, hit me with your last.
I got two more, and I'll keep it brief. But I finished Rising Sun, the Fall of the Japanese Empire, John Toland.
Oh, awesome!
And that's essentially as capping off my Dan Carlin recommended reads from his Japanese like Supernova in the East podcast series.
Excellent.
Most of it's like things we already kind of knew about, whatnot, you know, from that podcast. So it's interesting stuff. I'm always like this is a debate for another time, of course, but there's always the big debate about whether they should have dropped the bombs or not, because they were going to surrender anyway. Like, I was like, you know, like it's sort of like, yeah, we were thinking, you know how you're thinking about something, doing something, but something else happens, and then you go, okay. I mean, like, as far as I knew, no one ever has this like, only a handful of people said that they were debating internally whether to surrender or not. How about doing, like, yeah, but it was unconditional, so you really have to give up everything for it. And now it's the case. Like, and of course, you know, I think Hirohito says we gotta, you know, bear the unbearable or whatever. And then like they try to coup d'etat him like after he says that. So like there's a bunch of people willing to not give up, right? So it's like there's a whole system was a mess. The only thing I will say is that the United States deliberately did not target Kyoto because it had no military significance and it was completely cultural, and they didn't really have a beef with Japanese culture at that sort of stature. They weren't necessarily like, they weren't, not saying they were like bad. You got to hit the symbols of like imperial might. Don't like. So I was very happy to like find out. Make a PR statement. You gotta ban. You gotta cancel Hiroshima. Yeah. So, and then, so that finished that, and I have an update on my Quentin Tarantino read of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, which is basically the most Tarantino thing you'll ever read. Oh, fuck yeah. If you like listen to Tarantino and like and podcasts and documentaries, he goes on these like rants midway into different things. So you're reading a chapter, and his writing's like okay. It's not like great. It's actually kind of pulpy. If you think, well, I would hope so. Yeah, but there's like scenes like they'll go in mid chapter about like the second chapter or whatever, like where they talked about like Cliff's movie fan history, like, and why he loves foreign movies over Hollywood movies, and Rick Dalton hates foreign movies because you have to read the subtitles, and and like Cliff's like a war hero. He's seen shit you've never, you know, like it's just like, and he'll go into like just rants midway into the dialogue. He won't even stop taking breaks saying, hey, sidebar here. He'll take sidebars in like a stream of consciousness sort of way. Oh, and you're like, shit. Okay. So you're reading this and I'm like, I mean, like part of this book is essentially to kind of like because he did such a great job world building into the movie, you kind of want to like the way he sort of builds up characters in his head would suggest that he's sort of world building into, he would, you know, in a book would be great. Like he had this like giant, like not expanding universe, but like sort of just like the full-fledged thing, you know? Yeah. And that's kind of what he's doing here. So he's like giving you a lot of extraneous information that you probably don't need, but you kind of do in case you wanted to know, like this is all the shit he was going to put in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood 2.
And then he's like, I'm also retiring from movies, so fuck it.
So, like, for example, the dog, like the dog in the movie. You've seen the movie, right?
Nope, still haven't seen it.
Okay, well, okay. All right, well, we got to change that. We got to change that. But tell you what, we'll try to meet up next week. Not next week, but 2 weeks after that. Maybe if you want to come out and hang out, we'll be pulling it in a Hedo style, hedonistically pulling it. Don't need to bring swimsuits or anything like that because
Oh fuck yeah!
But anyway,
circle jerk. I'll come to the circle jerk and we'll watch.
Yeah. So yeah, maybe we'll do that because I know Eric wanted to rewatch it and stuff, so it might be a fun.
Yeah, true. I have everyone I know is like, go fucking see the movie right now. And I'm like, all right. I've been lazy. I skipped the last couple. I think I skipped. Was it Hateful Eight? What was the
Hateful Eight? Was the eighth one?
It was 6. That's the Adam Sandler one. But yeah, I skipped Hateful Eight, and then what was the one before that? Was it fucking?
It's Django.
There was Django. Yeah. Okay, I did Django, but I was super late to the party on Django. But that movie's good. But yeah, so now I need to. I can't. But anyway, yeah. So, yay or nay?
Pardon?
It sounds like a yay or nay on the book. Is it good?
So far it's yay. It's a little bit of like a okay, like it's like it's for the ultimate fan of that era. Narrative. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, if you're into that era, it's sort of like okay, all right.
It'd be curious to know if he's like if there's like any like specific like novels that he's like aping, like I'm wondering if it's like if there's something that's like, oh, this is like it's like a stylistic choice.
I know. I feel like it's written by a movie fan, like who's really into movies. It would be like if I wrote a plot about if I wrote a book, a fictitiously book about a band trying to make it, and just went in all these separate tangents on my opinion on music history and rock and roll and why I probably like, why punk rock sucks or something like that, and then like why
maybe it's just that Quentin Tarantino wanted to do a podcast, but then he's just like, no, I'm still like the greatest ever, so I'm not sharing my opinion with anybody. I'm just going to tell you all of my podcast stories in fiction form, like just now, and now you just have to do it.
It's yeah. I mean, it's a great medium. Like, please write books by all means. If you're not going to make movies, write books. But his I mean, not that I'm like, I can't call myself like a huge, like, I'm not a reading critic. I'm not a literary critic, but you can sort of tell that when sentences, how there's probably better ways. I wouldn't have written a sentence like that the way he did. So it's sort of strange little moments like that where I'm like, that sounds like an awkward sentence phrasing and the syntax and the grammar, no. More of the diction and syntax elements of like sentence structures, like, that sounds kind of awkward. I would have done that. Sort of things like ideas like that. So anyway, it also fits the classical Tarantino nonlinearity elements as well. So it's like he'll flash back, flash forward, mid chapter, without telling you. Like he tells you like if you read this book, don't read the book until you watch the movie, because like there's a point where he actually tells you the climax of the movie.
Oh shit! Okay.
As almost like a phrase, almost in a way of like, I was like, oh, by the way, this happens eventually. That's the climax of the movie. He puts it like, oh yeah, it's an oh by the way.
That's weird.
When the book starts to get going, we've already kind of set up everybody. I'm in the point where they've set up everybody.
Oh, okay,
now there's time to like flush things through a little bit. So, anyway, well, I'm sure I want to get your battery some time. Enjoy the rest of your trip in Portland.
Oh yeah, definitely, man. Yeah, I'm glad I got to.
I'm glad you did
travel.
Too.
I'm living the beat lifestyle now.
Fuck yeah.
I'm traveling to like I'm traveling to the cities of the Red Night. I'm passing my way through Yaswada and there's plenty of mutants and tentacle monsters out here in Portland, and it's I guess I got well like 4 more cities to go to like hit the William S. Burroughs Western lands. So
okay, all right, yeah. I mean,
Portland is the name of some kind of like at the end of Cities of Red Night. There's just like a district of like this like alien city that's like. It's just like an interstellar spaceport, just like full of fucking just like drug dealers and rapists and pimps, and it's just called Portland. That's a pretty accurate description. Yeah. But anyway, I can summarize more of the visit and tell you some more of the horror stories next time.
Yeah. What was going to happen is while we close this out, just to remind everybody that there's no guest Monday, and we're basically Monday. I will be in Texas. I will be traveling to Texas to move Eric back home. So
this is improvised B-roll, everybody.
So we'll probably record more beef sessions than anything else if we're on the trip back. But essentially, we'll meet back. We'll hit back up around Thursday and see where we're at and see how things are going. We'll figure it out. But yeah, I'll be out of town, but we'll be continuing to do this.
We'll be here in spirit. We'll be in your hearts and minds forever.
And making this the weekend edition of the podcast, and we'll figure out time to put the beef sessions back up. So, anyway, and yeah, we'll I need to get back on the horse to get to start rolling back in some guests for the pod.
Yeah, definitely.
Now that we've sort of wrapped up the planets epic, and I gotta finish writing that article, so that'll be the end of between that and the video. So, anyway, guys, bro. It was awesome. Enjoy the rest of your, like I said, enjoy the rest of your trip, and
I will.
We'll see you next week, man.
All right, adios, brother.
All right, take care.